Even in the 41st millennium, with the galaxy consumed with war and atrocity, certain figures stand head and shoulders above the rest for their sheer douchebag behavior. One such figure is the Primarch Konrad Curze, the Night Haunter. From skinning attempted suicides alive to eating his own space marines, or blowing up his home planet, Konrad always wakes up and chooses violence. But in a lifetime of dick moves, this one stands out for its multifaceted nature and its sheer ungratefulness. Today, we're discussing the Salvation of Konrad Curze. Having been crammed into a stasis pod and jettisoned into space by his brother Primarch Sanguinus, in his own massive dick move, shouts out to the Great Angel, Konrad missed the back half of the Horus Heresy. For most, this time would pass as though instantaneously, but for a Primarch, the small stasis system lacked the power to fully trap his mind. The Night Haunter remained dimly aware of his surroundings. Drifting unpropelled through the vastness of the Eastern Fringe, Konrad could have spent the rest of eternity in stasis, but fate, or rather, the Officio Assassinorum, intervened. Having secretly upgraded the sensor system of a clunky old cargo freighter called the Sheldrune, an operative of the Assassin Temples hid amongst its passengers. Knowing the crew of the slower-than-light ship wouldn't be able to resist the kind of salvage the pod represented, the assassin, calling himself Gun, hoped to use the Sheldrune's ponderous trek between star systems as a combing method to find the lost Primarch. To the misfortune of basically everyone, this effort was successful. The Sheldrune discovered the pod, and the frozen Night Haunter was brought aboard. Whether he escaped on his own or was released by the assassin is unclear. Either way, Konrad got loose on board the ship of his rescuers. While the temple operative worked to send a psychic beacon to let others know Curze had been found, the Night Haunter set out to pay the incalculable debt he owed the crew of the Sheldrune. Naturally, this meant hunting them down one by one, torturing them to death before using their remains in one art project or another. While that had been fun, Konrad was unsure how long he would be stuck on this ship, and after ripping the assassin in half, he was in danger of growing bored. With some restraint, he captured the last and youngest of the crew, a chartographer named Elva. It really is chartographer, it's not cartographer, I swear to you. That's what they're called in 40k. So a chartographer named Elva. This young man, instead of slaughtering, the Primarch kept alive to both act as the ship's entire crew, and perhaps more importantly, entertain the Night Haunter. Incapable of warp travel in his stolen vessel, Curze's destination of Saguelsa was a trip that would take 4 years. In this time, he bonded with young Elva. The man was a minor psyker, and with some instruction from Curze could provide the Primarch with both loyalty and insight. Not to mention, whenever Curze got bored, he could maim the man. Over the course of their trip, the Night Haunter removed 2 of Elva's fingers, eventually peeling away his whole arm and replacing it with crude cybernetics. Later, he took one of the chartographer's eyes, and in an act of insane pettiness, he would repeatedly remove parts of Elva's lower leg to make sure any peg he used as a crutch could never fit properly. Still, despite all this, Elva felt a sort of pride in who he served, a sort of kinship with the monster. He had spent so many nights conversing with this man, alone with the Primarch for almost 5 years. Perhaps no one knew Konrad Curze better. And that's why Konrad gave him to the Night Lords to torture or work to death at their discretion. Upon arriving at Saguelsa, the incredibly loyal Elva opted not to escape, which might have worked out, but at the last moment he accidentally revealed he knew Konrad was feeling doubts. So for the crime of saving Konrad and getting to know him, the last of the Sheldrune's crew was brutally dispatched.